As she put it. I was thinking to myself, I was boring, as I stared at my beer. Although I am aware of the expression crying in my beer, I was not one of the people crying. I did not see any reason to do so. There was no question that I felt terrible, but it wasn't like I should be mourning anything. There is no reason for a man to feel sad about a woman leaving him. When you can simply replace her, why should you cry? On a daily basis, I hear women expressing their dissatisfaction with lack of good men. It's funny how frequently I've heard the phrase, all the good ones are either being taken or gay. While this is going on, my male friends are complaining about the dearth of women who are able to keep their commitments. The divorces of a great number of men in this area have been extremely damaging. There appears to be a problem there. I suppose that people simply do not realize how fortunate they are in their lives. The experience of spending years with a partner and becoming familiar with every little like and every little quirk that your partner possesses is a wonderful one. In no way did I express my disappointment that she desired something else or even someone else. I was upset that she had described me as bland. I believe she made me boring in order to get rid of me because of it. That gives the wrong impression. She just told me that she was going to date someone else because she found me to be boring, so she hasn't technically dumped me yet. I used to be a kid who was always up for an adventure. Around the islands that are located off the coast and in the whitewater streams that are located in the mountains, I went kayaking with my friends. In the past, I chose to skip the day trips to the islands in favor of a nice long paddle to Long Island, which is located 12 miles away. The only thing I heard was that it was too far to traverse in a secure manner. It's funny because I did it again and again without any problems. I enjoyed going to a state park, setting up camp on the beach there, and then paddling back the following day. In Karen's opinion, this was not the kind of behavior that a husband and father would exhibit. Due to the fact that my family relied on me, I should avoid taking any unnecessary risks. Rock climbing, scuba diving, mountain biking, and backcountry skiing were all gone. My motorcycle, my little Triumph Spitfire, and my motorcycle were also gone. To demonstrate that I was a responsible parent, I began skiing on slopes that had been meticulously groomed. Just make sure it's not too steep. Putting my dirt bike and Triumph into storage, exchanging my soft-tail mountain bike for a road bike, and joining a gym that had a climbing wall were all things that I did. A minivan with faux wood grain siding was the vehicle I drove. Yes, I drove a minivan. Yes, I am aware of that. On the other hand, I loved her, so sod you. Following the taming of my leisure activities, she proceeded to impose demands on my job. Traveling was something that she disliked. The majority of trips consisted of a day or two spent negotiating deals. It was necessary for me to travel to London, Hong Kong, or any other location on occasion. My ability to swing deals that resulted in either a solid acquisition or a lucrative sale for my company meant that I was very good at what I did. Due to the fact that they typically lasted for a couple of weeks, she detested the international trips. We were able to improve our financial situation by taking advantage of the fact that they always came with a nice bonus attached to them. However, she detested the fact that I was absent. My status as a partner resulted in a significant reduction in the number of overnight trips. I was able to fly into the majority of domestic destinations, complete the transaction, and catch the red-eye flight back home. On the other hand, it took me a number of years to reduce the number of trips I took abroad. Traveling a lot, making a lot of money, becoming a senior partner, training and managing negotiating teams to close deals for you, passing on the travel, letting someone else take the trips and bring home the booty, and watching them pass you on the corporate ladder were all options that were presented to you. It was a catch-22 situation. In no way, shape, or form was anyone going to be able to eclipse me. I was a shrewd individual. I was successful in combining the reasons for traveling so that a single trip could result in multiple pieces of praise for my efforts to secure a partnership. When it came to doing the legwork, I was the first person in my company to embrace the use of teleconferencing. I made sure to charter small jets for my team so that we could make the most of the time we spent landing on the ground. It was a significant amount of money that I had to take out of my bonuses, but in the long run, it was money well spent. After I climbed the ladder, Karen was in a better mood, and everyone was safe. But I couldn't help but feel bored. To conform to her priorities, I sacrificed everything, and now I'm considered boring? Oh my God. My first thought was, fuck her. Give her the freedom to go and find whatever it is that she is looking for. For the time being, I'm going to return to the version of myself that I enjoy the most. A long time ago, I was the kind of person who enjoyed doing what I did. When I was competing in a motocross race over the weekend, I defied gravity by flying off a muddy gradient. This is the version of myself that braved a helicopter ride in order to discover fresh powder on a backcountry slope that required a full day to ski down. The version of myself that returned to that slope during the summer and succeeded in climbing back up. She had anticipated that I would remain at home and wait for her. Do you remember that safety precaution? In the event that she ran into any difficulties while she was out on her date, I was supposed to be available to assist her. To be serious? After 4 years of dating and friendship while we were in school, we have been married for 25 years, and during that entire time, I thought she was very intelligent. Apparently, she was not. I was not in agreement with this. Due to the fact that I was either on call or waiting up when she arrived home, I was not going to be at home for her. That is one boring topic. At the same time that all other things were abandoned, love, honor, cherish, and obedience were also abandoned. All bets were off, and all vows were off. That final one, however, she declined, and I now understand why she did so. If obeyed was included in the mix, then boring would not be an issue. Consequently, I arrived home from work, changed into jeans and a sport shirt while she was showering, and was in the process of retrieving my old boots when she emerged from the shower that she had just finished. In the past, she had a preference for me wearing boots, whether they were riding boots, hiking boots, western boots, or dress boots. However, when I transformed into a more secure and boring version of myself, she no longer had any interest in me wearing boots. I have, after all, been rethought at this point. Despite this, I was aware that I looked good in the boots. In every way, they were a perfect fit, everything was done. I had gained weight over the course of those 25 years, but it was all muscle in my upper body, and I knew that those boots looked even better now that I had shoulders and a chest that was more typical of a man. With just a little bit of aftershave and a fantastic sport coat, there was no question in my mind that I was not waiting up for her. It did not make her happy. She inquired, "What are you going to be doing tonight?" Nothing dressed like that. Who said boring couldn't have class? In the time it took her to respond, I had already left the house and was on my way to spend the weekend. Almost immediately, the minivan began to start, and its massive 4-cylinder engine began to roar to life. It's possible that it purred to life. Okay, I'm sorry, but I can't fool you. The minivan had a sputtering and knocking sound as it began to move forward. To its credit, it had sputtered up the driveway and turned towards town before Karen could get something on. I couldn't help but smirk as I watched her emerge from the front door wearing her robe. I didn't have to wait long before my mobile phone started ringing, and I promptly put it on voicemail. I had a fresh message that I had prepared specifically for the event. I am Dale, and I am here. Tonight I am unable to come to the phone because I am either driving or being boring. I apologize for the inconvenience. To get some excitement, give my wife Karen a call at the number 555 to 269. She is going to be delighted to talk about me. Leave a message if you need anything else, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. However, you shouldn't be surprised if it takes me a while to get back to you. Perhaps on Monday. Ciao. Immediately, get rid of this piece of garbage that is a van. Having to drive a vehicle that had forward siding was getting old for me. Whatever it was, I needed it to be rugged yet elegant. Even if it were as simple as an old Willis wagon, I would be content with something that had real wood siding. I believe that if the surfboard were placed on top of it, it would look really good. It was impossible for me to locate the appropriate combination or an old Willis Woody. That was a fun time to ride. Since I am no longer bound by that old, tedious, and soul-destroying ball and chain, I am enjoying my freedom. Oh, it was a pleasure to say that. There was nothing that had a sophisticated yet rugged feel to it. If I had been used to me and given up on being boring, I would have taken the checkbook out of the money market account that we used to save money in and traveled back home. Not in a million years was I going to go home. I purchased one of each item. A rugged car and an elegant car were both purchased by me. My Mercedes dealer was more than happy to be able to provide me with a stylish convertible. Très elegant Mercedes. As far as elegance is concerned, there is nothing more sophisticated than a gentleman who is able to say very elegant in French and drives a Mercedes convertible. Even though I am aware that I miss the accents, I don't care. At this point, I am no longer boring, and looking them up would have been, wait for it, you know it's coming, boring. Moreover, the dealer had a fantastic big-ass Jeep in his inventory of used automobiles. It was outfitted with mean-ass lifters, fat-ass knobby tires, bright-ass fog lights, and an awesome loud-ass train horn, in addition to a dozen other aftermarket enhancements. I left in the Jeep, and the convertible was brought to my house and secured in the driveway. I drove away in the Jeep. She described the Sunday morning as being dull. I was never about boring, I said to myself. It was a terrible drag to be the me that she created. I went out in search of my first dose of adrenaline, and while he was repressing himself back into his hole, whatever had happened was history. After purchasing a trailer, I left for my home. I went back to my mother's house rather than to the house that I shared with my wife. It had been a couple of months since I had last seen my mother, and it was time. I had a wonderful time on the 3-hour drive because it allowed me to get back in touch with driving something that had some testosterone under the hood. My mother was overjoyed, and she had kept my favorite lasagna ready for me. Despite the fact that she did not inquire as to why I was present or why Karen did not appear, she was aware that something was wrong. She was always able to read my mind. After getting up the following morning, I went to the shed and retrieved my old Spitfire from there. Over the course of all these years, I had kept it there. My brother had driven it on occasion for me in order to ensure that it remained roadworthy. In spite of the fact that I was not so fortunate with a dirt bike, I did not have to start it in order to load it onto the trailer. I had the bike and the car on my trailer rig by the time lunchtime rolled around, and I could see a smile on Dad's face. The question that she posed was, "So, are you going to tell me about it?" I smiled as well. "What is it about, Mom? Have you been living your life Karen's way for the past 25 years? My son was buried in minivans and bunny slopes while you were raising 3 children yourself. When you suddenly come to visit, you are not accompanied by your wife. You are driving a beast of a truck, you want your sports car and your motorcycle, and you are wearing those boots that look so good, as I mentioned earlier." She had the ability to read me like a book. The recent struggle that Karen had with insanity was explained by me. You ought to express your gratitude to that girl, even though she might be insane. You were set free by her. It was correct, Mom. At all times, Mom was correct. I restarted my phone that evening and turned it back on. Throughout the day, Karen and the children had been communicating via phone calls and text messages. I responded to the children by putting them in a text group and saying, I'm fine. I am currently at Grandma's house. Your mother and I are not on the same page regarding a certain matter, and I made the decision that I needed some time to reflect, so I went to see Ollie's father. Mom is in a panic. As far as she is aware, she has no idea what caused your disappearance. I am not going to lie, and I am not going to explain why I am not going to lie. It would be inappropriate for me to explain it to you. I will only say that your mother has decided that I am boring, and as a result, I am taking action to change that. She is able to explain to you what she is doing. Jenny said to her father, "That's not like Mommy." At all times, she prefers to play it safe. In no way would she ever act in a way that would put you or our family in danger. It would be best if you went home and put things in order. I am grateful to you, my dear, for having faith in me. What are you waiting for? Why don't you ask your mother for the truth before you go and crucify me for this minor incident? Daniel, Papa, we are not pointing the finger at anyone. Both of you are in our thoughts and prayers, and we want nothing more than the best for you. To my son, thank you. Please let me know when you have finished speaking with your mother. I had spent the night with my mother, laughing at an old, cheesy movie, and I was about to go to sleep when I heard the notification sound from my text alert. I'm sorry, Daddy, expressed Jenny. It's hard for me to believe that my mother went out with another man. The other person, I know, sweetie. Jenny is asking, what are you going to do? Me, I'm going to continue living my life in the same manner as I always have. In any case, I am not going to be concerned about the guidelines that your mother has established for living because, if they were of any significance, she would have adhered to the guidelines that we had both agreed upon for marriage. Never going to happen, kids. I was liberated by her. I am free to live my life the way I choose. Greetings, Dad, Daniel, it makes sense to me. Kindly kiss Grandma on my behalf, and when I return home the following weekend, I would love to take a ride in the Spitfire. To which I responded, LOL, yeah, you guys read me as well as your grandma. Ollie's response, you'd better believe it, and we expect a ski vacation for spring break, someplace with a helicopter instead of a T-bar. What am I supposed to say? The things that I used to do and the things that I really enjoyed were known to my children. They saw pictures of me skiing and riding a motocross bike while I was covered in mud. You bet, I said. Strive to improve your physical fitness. Trails in the backcountry are enjoyable, but they require a lot of effort. Boring, she said. Sunday morning saw Mom and me at our favorite bagel shop. I stuck around and helped her with some chores around the house. My phone didn't text at lunch, and I laughed at the raging text from Karen. They had delivered my Mercedes, they had locked the keys inside. Since I had the spares, all she could do was look at it, and it blocked her car in the garage. I'd have to send the delivery team an extra tip for that. I went home, Karen's car was there. I backed the Jeep down my driveway, parked it, and hopped in my new Mercedes and motored off again, chuckling as Karen ran out and tried to flag me down. Now she could look at my new Jeep with its trailer load of her dual nemesis, my Spitfire and my Kawasaki. Food for thought. At least her side of the garage was clear and she could get out. Maybe she'd leave, too easy, boring, she said. I didn't go back home. I hit a mall to buy enough clothing for a couple of days, then checked into the Hyatt near my office. I took the penthouse suite. I didn't earn all those bonuses over the years for nothing. I slept quite soundly. The next day, I went to work as usual and told my team I would be on the next trip, a junket to Hong Kong that involved 160 acres of prime industrial property. Negotiations had stalled, and this seemed to be as good a time as any for me to go flex some bossman muscle. My team was thrilled. They had assembled 3 other possible acquisitions to look at while they were there. Why wait? I asked them when they showed me their preliminary studies on the sites. We go to look, but be prepared to buy. Alert our counsel over there, we are coming in guns hot, and they need to be ready to crank out some serious paperwork. Pack for at least a month, people. If you can't do that, make plans to tag team with members of Ian's group. Feel free to fly your families over to see you at least once while you're gone. I don't want any divorces over this push. As a matter of fact, I'll spring for hotel airfare and expenses for them to go along for the entire time if you choose. I'll leave in spring for some sightseeing. I want you happy, hungry, and effective. A month, boss, maybe more. I plan to visit Sydney about the hotel group in Buenos Aires before we come back. I'm sending Ann to Seoul and Mumbai while we are in Hong Kong. We have a unique opportunity to make some serious money here, people. Nice to see you back, Lo. Carter Douglas, my apparent hot negotiator, grinned at me. I grinned back and grabbed my favorite numbers fanatic by the elbow. Kim, a word with you, please. I ushered her into my office, instructed my secretary to hold my calls, especially from my wife. She nodded, and I closed the door behind Kim and me. Here is your big chance, Kim. We're going to be working fast and with no margin of error. Most of what we buy, we will be reselling right after we arrive home, and each purchase or sale has to happen without a hitch and in time. Some of our acquisitions are trash, but we'll be attractive to sellers who have things we want, so we will unload some to get others. We will also be making some stops to open new markets for some of our product lines. Those will not be deals that will benefit us short-term, but will yield long-term profits that will open the eyes of the other partners, the people who will move you up from that junior associate position to something much more lucrative. This is your big moment, so I want you near at hand 24/7 and ready to support any argument or claim I make. Before and make it 24/7, does that mean? I smiled. Karen dating other guys, does this mean I get to sleep my way to a partnership? No, one woman betraying me at a time is one too many. You'll have to work your way up like anyone else. You know you want to have me. It was true, she was a walking wet dream, lean and lithe with legs that curved only where they should, beneath that luscious bum, and those plunging necklines were a constant reminder of how creamy and soft her delicious mangoes looked. Indeed, but you work for me, so no, not going to happen. But you are going to be right at hand and at my business-related beck and call on this trip. You'll pick me up in a limo Friday morning, dress as sexy as you can, even if I'm not. I want my wife worried that I am sleeping with you. When you arrive, come to my door to get me. When you order the limo, ask for Jan to drive and tell her I need her to wear the uniform with the short shorts. I want my wife jealous as hell when I leave. My team was motivated, my wife was frantic to see me, my kids were furious with my wife, Kim was horny, not for me but to get a promotion, well maybe for me too, but I had drawn that line in the sand. I went to the airport to hire a plane. I thought maybe I'd jump out of one. Don't be silly. I wasn't going to kill myself. If I was going to go back to the thrill-seeker I had been in my youth, I had to get off my bum and grab a dose of adrenaline. It was awesome. I rented the cameras for me and my jump partner, to document the stunt. I posted it on Facebook and enjoyed an awesome night's sleep. The next day, my phone was filled with missed calls and texts from the kids. Karen raged, the kids raved. Nice served. The real me was back. Boring, she said. I really didn't want to see Karen, so I slipped home while she was at work and packed my stuff. I headed to the airport and caught a late flight to Chicago. There was no pressing reason to go, but I did have some prospects on the back burner that might prove useful. It turned out to be a profitable couple of days and kept me out of Karen's reach until the big trip. I got in very late Thursday night, and the house was dark. She finally came home at 2 a.m. and didn't even know I was there. Fortunately, she was alone. I would have had to confront her about bringing her toy boys into my home, but this way I didn't have to see her until I was ready. I was charged for it too. I was up early and had my refreshed luggage packed and by the door. I made myself a manly breakfast of steak and eggs and had ZZ Top on the stereo in the kitchen. I was in a perfect-fitting pair of gabardine casual slacks with a new stylish sports shirt Kim had not seen before. Dressy comfort seemed perfect for the 18-hour trek to Asia, and I made dressy comfort look good. Karen made her way down the staircase drawn by the smell of my coffee. I make great coffee, hers sucked. Oh my God, Dale, you're home, honey. Why didn't you answer my calls? I have been worried sick. Yeah, the kids told me. You were worried. No need, I'm fine. I'm just doing as I please. Oh no, you don't, mister. I get a better explanation than that. It's a perfect explanation. Last week you told me you were going to do as you pleased and I couldn't stop you. So I figured if wifey dear is going to do as she pleases, I might as well do the same. If it's the new us, I can live with it. I never said you could do just anything you wanted. I said I was going to go out with other men. Okay, I get it. But I didn't want that. So it follows, if you can make a choice that big in spite of my wishes, there is no reason for me to consult you on mine. There certainly is a reason. You have a family to be responsible for. A husband and father has no reason running around on a motorcycle or racing little sports cars. I thought we settled it years ago. We did, but we have also grown older, and our situation has changed. Kay, and I gave up all those things for you and the kids. I drove a minivan for crying out loud. I skied bunny slopes with the family. I hadn't jumped out of an airplane for years until this week. You said I was boring, that's because I was bored. Now the kids are gone, they have huge college funds to finish school, and here's a big surprise neither you nor they know about, they each have a trust fund that matures when they graduate college. They have enough money to go to grad school and put a down payment on a nice house wherever they live. Face it, the kids will be fine no matter what happens to me or you. So, if the chute doesn't open and I die doing something awesome, I'll die with a smile on my face, and they'll be fine. And me? You know I have a stake in your future too. You have a wife, Karen. I hate to break it to you, but no, I don't think I do. What now? Just hold on, Dale, that's a pretty big leap. We just started exploring this whole thing, and you already think I don't think anything. I know I don't matter that much to you anymore. If I did, you never would have given me that ultimatum. You think I'm boring? Okay, that's easy to give up. I've got some fun too. I gave up a lot in the name of being a family man, but the family man isn't exciting enough to keep his wife from resting her head on someone else's pillow. The doorbell rang just in time to save me from another salvo in this ridiculous discourse. JY stepped in with Kim right behind her. The two brought in 4 of the finest legs you've ever seen. Did I mention how good I looked in gabardine? I looked even better with a 10 in my gabardine. Jen greeted me with a hug and a kiss and moved to start shuttling my 4 suitcases to the limo. Kim handed me a dossier and started rattling off numbers of where we were in our negotiations. She rattled off the project names and locations, which had Karen's attention completely. Hong Kong, Sydney, Buenos Aires. How long are you going to be gone? A couple of months, I expect. Plenty of time for you to explore before you're too old. Do me a favor, though. Don't let them into the house. Karen launched a series of pleas that would have made a public TV telethon proud. She had reason after reason I needed to stay and that we needed to talk about how our relationship had evolved and where we were going. I stopped her there. Honey, wrong tense. Our relationship isn't going, it's gone, and right now, so am I. See you in a few weeks. I didn't hear a word of her gibberish as we walked out to the car, but I did manage to crack a smile at what she said when she noticed my Jeep, my Spitfire, and my convertible parked in front of the garage doors. All 3 garage doors, including the door her car lurked behind. Of course, what she said was too foul for me to write, even here. Hong Kong was fantastic. Kim was in the suite beside me, so she was right there 24/7, but only in a good, business-like way, as we both had agreed. She was hot on the numbers, and we managed to close all the deals expected and set up others for follow-up teams to come back and close in a month. We were also quite successful in Australia and wound up with an agreement in principle to acquire the entire hotel group. Again, a closing team would have to return in a month. We scouted additional acquisitions and went forward to Argentina. Again, I was able to reach agreement with a motivated seller, and the team was able to put other projects on our corporate radar. All this time, I remained chaste and true to my marriage vows, hoping upon hope to return home to find a desperate to reconcile Karen. Yeah, Karen may have gone a bit insane, but I still love the crazy woman. I really wasn't ready to throw her back, so I took her ultimatum as a declaration of an open marriage. There we stay married, but screw anyone we want. No problems. Carrie Moore was an old friend from college who had become a professional buyer for rich tourists in Hong Kong. She spent a day taking my team around town, shopping the famous markets. She sent me to a fine tailor before our 12 days in town were up. I left for Sydney with several new suits made to order, and we spent the night screwing each other senseless. It was just what I needed, a woman I trusted, a classy hotel suite in an exotic city, and unbridled lust. I felt guilty for about 10 minutes, which was how long it took me to remember Karen wrote the rule book I was now using. Boring, she said. I realized I had not ever been boring. I had, however, been bored. Carrie was not boring, and from the way her body quivered and shook when she climaxed, I could tell she wasn't bored with me. When we broke camp in Hong Kong and moved to Sydney, we hired a tour guide named Sydney. I enjoyed the sheer delight of touring the beautiful city during the day and the willowy brown-haired beauty by night. I'm not being redundant when I say I enjoyed being in Sydney, and Sydney, Rio was an equally target-rich business environment. We didn't do quite as well as our foray into Asia or Australia, but we managed to justify another month abroad. And speaking of abroad, I met a hot Latin divorcee that taught me a thing or two about tango, both upright and horizontally in bed. As we wrapped up our deals, I sent my team back one by one on commercial flights, first class. I took a leased jet a couple of days later, where the flight attendant initiated me into the Mile High Club while simultaneously introducing me to the etiquette of the threesome. I had a great trip, but I wasn't done yet. Boring? Yeah, well, you get the picture. Before going home, I took my Rio Tan body skiing in Canada. I met my kids at B before Christmas. Why not? They were finished with finals a week before their mother expected them home for the holiday. So there, the skiing was awesome and involved steep drops on powdery slopes reachable only by helicopter. I spent my nights partying with my kids early and drilling the lights out of a voluptuous blonde housewife who I met the first night in the bar. When she told me her tale of woe of being traded in for a younger model by her husband and not knowing which way to turn, I hired her. I gave her a generous housing allowance and offered to pay her moving expenses to become my newest personal assistant. Of course, that wasn't until our third night sleeping together. Every night, she had screamed her climax in different languages, and when she went Russian on me with her sixth language in 3 nights, I decided that her translation skills would be a valuable asset to our growing international interests. Of course, hiring her meant no more sleeping together. My business ethics were not thrown over when my cheating wife trashed our marriage ethics. Besides, the weekend at B was almost over anyway. We flew home a couple of days before Christmas. The kids went home to see their mom. I checked into a hotel near work. I didn't plan on dealing with Karen and jet lag at the same time. I did manage to buy a condo as a Christmas present to myself and went to spend Christmas with my wife and kids. My cars were still parked there in front of the garage. There was a little Cooper convertible parked in front of my Spitfire. I was sure Karen was going to be pissed, but she wasn't. She greeted me like nothing had happened. Maybe I wasn't boring to her anymore. I did Christmas. I enjoyed her feast. I helped with the dishes and took the obligatory garbage out to the garage. I pulled the Mercedes and the Spitfire into their base, then I left in my Jeep. The phone rang. I had hoped we might both enjoy a Christmas truce. We did. You could stay a couple of days for the kids' sake, I did. I slept in the guest room. The day after Christmas, I took the cars one by one to be washed. Leaving them in the weather for 4 months may not have been the best move for the cars, even if it had been a daily reminder to Karen that things had changed. I parked the Spitfire in the garage, intending to garage both the Jeep and the Mercedes at the condo. On the second day after Christmas, Karen immediately resumed her hostile behavior. For lunch, her boyfriend came over to her house. Smugly, she smiled at him. I made my way upstairs, and after retrieving my bag, I went back to the full-scale war. Karen was caught off guard by the children's rage, and she was not prepared to deal with their rage. I'm going to guess that she saw things a different way. Unless it was Christmas, I might have done the same thing. I halted them in order to bid them farewell, and they did so. In its place, they said their goodbyes to Karen. After throwing their bags into the Jeep, we drove to the downtown area. It was going to be a good time for us to celebrate New Year's in the city because there was a lot of things to do there. By day, we went to museums, and by night, we went to clubs. Since both of the children had friends in the neighborhood, we had the opportunity to spend time together or to go our separate ways. In addition, I was able to get some time to myself, which I did not spend by myself. When it came time for me to return to work, I had done enough things to last a lifetime, including listening to enough music, going to enough museums, eating enough fine food, and drinking plenty of fine wine and whiskey. I became accustomed to a routine that was not a routine at all. The assault that I carried out in the Southern Hemisphere during that fall had not only elevated my status within the organization, but it had also attracted the attention of our rivals. The sudden flex of muscle that we displayed impressed other companies, and they actively pursued me as a potential employee. Not only did I not conceal the information from my team, but I also informed them that if I left, I would be taking them with me. It should come as no surprise that the senior partners were informed about what was developing. I was summoned to the office of the supervisor. Karen's grandfather had established this business, and her father had grown it into a prosperous conglomerate that encompassed a wide range of manufacturing concerns. Karen's grandfather had started the company. After getting married to Karen, I was offered a job, and I started out as a low-level analyst, which was a position that was a perfect match for my educational background. I was not given anything special, and I even signed a prenuptial agreement to prevent myself from ever laying claim to Karen's eventual inheritance of the company, which was still almost entirely owned by her father. I got along well with Mr. Adams, but we did not have a particularly warm and friendly relationship. It was more advantageous for him to maintain a personal distance from his employees, including his son-in-law. When I first encountered it, I thought it was strange. However, as I progressed through the ranks, I became aware of how it enabled him to avoid favoritism and adopted the same line of thinking. As a result, I did not consent to having sexual relations with Kim or even to playing golf with my friends. The fact that Adams got right to the point did not come as a surprise to me because business is like business. In the past few months, it appears that a great deal of change has occurred for you. It appears that you have lost a few battles with my daughter, despite the fact that you have done quite well at work. Do you need me to be concerned about you? When I sat down in the little chair in front of his desk, I leaned back into the plushness of the chair. Knowing that a short chair in front of the desk and a tall chair behind it, towering over an opponent, is a dominant position, I was aware of the psychological implications of this arrangement. In those movies, the down swordsman thrusts upwards into the exposed soft underbelly of the dominant warrior as he winds up for the final lethal stroke. I guess they have never seen those movies. Yes, sir, you are correct. Even though I've been with this company for 25 years, I'm still considered a junior partner. The amount of business that I have brought in over the past 5 years has exceeded that of any other manager, and the Asian blitz that I carried out this past year was unparalleled. That being the case, my earned bonus was significantly higher than that of any other employee, including the presidents of your divisions. In spite of this, I am the junior partner. Thus, I am considering accepting the standard severance package and moving on with my life. I am unable to promote you in the same manner as anyone else because you are my son-in-law. How would that appear to you? I get that business is business, but that is something that applies to both sides. Taking an offer that is commensurate with my capabilities is what I consider to be business as usual. In the future, I will be able to become a full partner at either Woodford Unlimited or Mark Manufacturing. My son-in-law is someone I would anticipate to be loyal to me. Slick, when you are trying to bring me down, business is business. However, when it is to your advantage, loyalty becomes an exceptionally important factor. While we are discussing the importance of family loyalty, I was wondering if you would be willing to talk about the ways in which you attempted to teach your daughter the right way to behave, because you were unsuccessful, Dale. I'm sorry, but that does not pertain to this. When I'm Dale, why are you referred to as Mr. Adams? In the business world, business is business. I am deserving of the same level of respect that you anticipate from me. Very well, Mr. Carter, it is. Remember, Dr. Carter, was it? In May of last year, I successfully defended my thesis for my doctoral degree in economics. Sure enough, Dr. Carter, that is the case. I am aware of the actions that my daughter has taken, and I don't like them. She is not speaking to me at the moment, to put it mildly, despite the fact that we have communicated with each other. To finish his thought for him, I interrupted him and said, my philosophy is terrible. The way you think about loyalty is completely out of step with the way people think from the rest of the world. What you mean when you say that business is nothing more than an easy way to deal with a workforce that considers you to be a heartless boss with the personality of a dead fish. Do you think it would be prudent to keep your top producer on the bench simply due to the fact that he is your son-in-law? On the whole, I don't see many reasons why I shouldn't sell my skills to another company. To cut a long story short, the conceited son of a witch advised me to go ahead and do the worst that I could to him. Yes, I did. All of the members of my team, as well as Ian and his team, had submitted their resignations by the time the business day came to a close. It is the fastest you have ever seen someone backpedal in your entire life. My senior partnership comes with a sizable pay increase, as well as raises for both of our teams and the establishment of a mergers and acquisitions division that is dedicated solely to our company. I turned my attention to my personal life after ensuring that my professional and financial futures were secure. I rode my bike on roads that were dirt tracks as well as on wild trails. I even competed in motocross races. As I rode my mountain bike downhill, I got muddy through the process. After getting muddy and exhausted, I played with a couple of biker girls who thought it was hot. I looked good in both of those states. One of them was a Harley girl who thought I was pretty hot on the jumps for an old guy and liked my style on the motocross track. After that, she instructed me to provide her with a call whenever I had something that was more substantial than my dirt bike between my legs. During the process of loading my bike onto the rig that was behind my beast Jeep, I informed her that the thing that was between my legs was going to require more than 2 wheels. We spent the night debating whether it was more advantageous to be nimble or to have raw power in our crotch rockets. She installed the Harley-Davidson motorcycle alongside my Kawasaki. Yes, we compared the bikes to different types of events, such as those that were sticky, sweaty, moaning, groaning, and rocket maneuvers. Compared to B, I skied more. Tuckerman's was one of the slopes that I skied, and when the summer heat closed that venerable slope on Mount Washington, I discovered some excellent glacier and slopes in the Pyrenees that were sure to get your adrenaline pumping. It is amusing to observe women who are only partially clothed basking in the sun at a lodge located at a high altitude, right next to a snowy slope. Even more entertaining is the experience of watching them take off the rest of their clothing in your hotel room at a later time. After completing a sufficient number of tandem jumps from a perfectly good airplane, I was able to qualify to jump by myself, so I did. My instructor provided me with sufficient time in a sailplane to allow me to fly on my own, and I did so. The fact that a student named Cindy was able to earn both solos in the same month made her so happy that she allowed me to perform with her. After landing on the deserted beach, we stripped down to our underwear and began our drills. As a result of the fact that the seating in the sailplane was arranged in such a way that it was back to front and the seats were in the way of Hanky and Panky, we were unable to figure out a way to accomplish this task in the sailplane. The first time around, it was a hit, so why not give it another shot? I posted everything on Facebook, and my page was flooded with comments from our friends and family, particularly from the children who weren't talking to their mother as much as I was when I was posting it. Absolutely not at all. I was surrounded by her, but it is impossible to hit a moving target in the same way that you can hit a stationary one. Isn't it boring to me? Kiss my soulless rear end. Every time I posted something, my phone rang. I simply did not answer her phone call, I did not block her number. She made an effort to catch me at work, and she got her father to ask for my presence so that we could have a conversation. Following my threat to leave the Woodfords in the event that he ever attempted to do that again, he did not attempt it again. It was necessary for him to restrain her in order to prevent her from sexually assaulting me while I was running away. For some individuals' offspring. Following that, the full court press started. Each and every one of her relatives, including her aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, pets, and grocery boys, appeared to be in favor of another opportunity for her. When I was told, everyone makes mistakes, you see, I tried to put myself in their position. I instructed the women to remove their clothes and lie down in the same position they were in. After that, I instructed them to spread their legs and get ready for me to rock their world. After all, if errors of that nature were so simple to commit, so easily overlooked, and so readily forgiven, then I ought to be able to make a few of my own, and I might as well begin with someone who had such a strong understanding of the procedure. It was for the same reason that I instructed the men to bring me their wives, girlfriends, mothers, or daughters who were of an appropriate age. However, they did understand what I was trying to say. It's possible that some of them would never talk to me again. It's not a terrible thing at all. To this day, I would. The dim store advice was getting to be too much for me to bear, and it was bringing me down, so I decided to leave. To get my team back on the road, I took them. They were overjoyed because they had a great time during our initial spree of purchasing goods in Asia and Argentina. We traveled to Brazil and Argentina this time, and then we returned to Hong Kong once we were done. As a result of our success, we decided to begin leasing space and establishing the first international office of the company in Asia. Guess who was appointed to the position of Vice President for Operations in the Southern Hemisphere? Karen's dear daddy had nothing to object to because we had caused enough rain there to require a continued presence. I am truly yours. As a result of my installation of Ian in Argentina and Kim in Australia, the business of our division began to flourish. I in no way returned home. Despite Karen's desire to follow me, the children were able to convince her otherwise. She was able to accept the fact that I did not want her in some way. At the same time that I returned the bike to Mom, I also returned the Spitfire. The Jeep was given to my son, and the Mercedes was given to my daughter. I presented Carrie with an engagement ring and Karen with a divorce decree. It's true that I had no intention of spending the most memorable moments of my life by myself. I desired to be with a good woman by myself. Aside from that, she is a huge fan of skydiving, which means that I not only get a lot of money but also a lot of adrenaline, a happy home, a fresh start, and my integrity. In my new part of the world, there is a lot of money to be made, to say the least. I would have been overjoyed if Karen had simply approached me and said, "I'm bored, let's find something new and exciting in our lives," because I would have been filled with excitement. It was the same for me. It would have been a rush to teach her how to ski and to take her along with us. However, we could have gone skiing together. We had the opportunity to travel, we could have ziplined through Cambodia with minimal danger and a great deal of excitement, or we could have rafted down rivers without risk. I would have done anything for her, but she turned me over to someone else. I would have done anything for her. I don't think I could take that. From what I've heard, she is extremely dissatisfied with the dating scene. She believes that the guys who are available are lacking. As a result of the fact that we are bringing in a ridiculous amount of money for her father's business, she is envious of the fact that her father loves the out of me for moving away from her. However, she is aware that she cannot go back and regrets what she did. Carrie ensures that this is the case. All of the things that she obtains while strapped on a parachute or while wearing ski boots in a helicopter. But the thing that gives me the most rush of adrenaline is going to bed with her every single night. During our time together in bed, there is nothing that Carrie will not do, and there is nothing that she has not enjoyed doing that I have done with her. Because she wants it again after we have completed it, I am aware of this fact. That was never the case with Karen, not even when we were young and things were going exceptionally well. But ever since that day, when her father had to restrain her so that I could leave and assault her, we have never spoken to each other again. She is aware of how little I want to do with her, but I am sure that she would enjoy having a conversation with me. It is my assumption that one of the children will eventually get married or have a grandchild who will be eager to go meet Karen at some point in the future. There is no doubt that she will be present, and I will at long last be required to engage in conversation. On the other hand, I am not concerned. At that moment, my Carrie will be there by my side, waiting for me to arrive. In no way will she be required to safeguard me, rather, she will be present to ensure that I do not become overly dull or bored. Hello, listeners. I would appreciate it if you could share your thoughts in the comments section. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe at the same time.